Today the Super Collector series continues, and I want to welcome Richard Davis. He is a Wade Boggs Super Collector. He lives in Illinois, somehow is connected to Wade Boggs. That's going to be part of what we talk about today. I want to dig into that a little bit. Richard, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mike, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Hey, I'm glad that you were able to join me. I loved having these super collector conversations. Everybody's got a different story. Everybody's got a different motivation, and it's fun for people to hear about what that is.
Right.
You are a Wade Boggs super collector, but I want to back up a little bit earlier than that. When did you start collecting and start collecting cards?
Yeah, all right. So I was born in 74, and it wasn't until about 1981, when my dad, or maybe it was 82, but anyway, early 80s, 81 or 82. My dad would start buying me a pack of baseball cards every Sunday after church. We'd go out and he'd stop by the Wade Hen or whatever it was, or 7-Eleven back in the day, and he'd buy me a pack of cards, and that's what got me interested. I do remember it was 82 because I remember getting a Cal Ripken rookie. And so it was 82 when I started collecting cards. Still wasn't quite into baseball yet. I think maybe this was my dad's way of trying to get me into baseball because my dad loved baseball. So yeah, I started collecting cards in 82, 83, 84. And then it wasn't until Christmas morning of 1985 when I had gotten a box of baseball cards as a Christmas gift. It was like a baseball card starter collector kit. I opened it up, and inside the box were about 200 loose cards and then 3 packs of unopened baseball cards. One of them happened to be an 83 Donruss wax pack. And so I opened it, and I mean, right there on top was Wade Boggs. Now, I didn't know who Wade was at the time, but I did know that card. You know, at the time, I think Beckett had it valued at $10. So, I mean, I used to get the Beckett magazine. I'd see, and when I saw that card, it was like one of the cards I wanted to get, back in the day. It was, it was him, it was Gwynn, Mattingly, obviously in 84. But, that was one card I would have loved to have had, and I got it. And then it was for that point forward, because I was so enamored and elated to get this card, as an 11-year-old kid holding a $10 piece of cardboard it was just something. There was something cool, magical about it. So I started following his career from that morning on. I don't know how many other super collectors know exactly the time and date and when it all started for him, but that was me, Christmas morning, 85.
So the primary attraction was the fact that you got this $10 rookie card, according to
Correct.
Beckett. That
Correct.
hooked you as an 11-year-old. How long did you continue to collect, or have you ever taken a break? A lot of us, we collected up through, midway through high school and then took a break for a while. What's kind of your collecting journey from that point on as an 11-year-old?
Never stopped collecting Boggs from that day forward. There were times where I had to kind of put it on hold, due to, well, obviously from the ages of 11 till when I got my first job at the age of 16, I couldn't do my own buying. So I'd have to, the good graces of my parents, if they wanted to, pick me up something here and there, because there was a card shop in our town that we would go to, or I would go to. And every once in a while there'd be a Boggs card there and I would like to get it. So my dad or my mom give me a little money and I'd go buy it. So it was hard those first few years. And then when I started getting a job through high school, definitely would. And then when I got my car and I could actually drive to the card store myself, I would start picking up more stuff. And then when eBay hit the scene in 1998 or whatever, I mean, for me, that was when everything my collection just skyrocketed, because I was finding stuff on there that you couldn't pick up locally in Chicago.
Sure.
I was getting all kinds of stuff off of eBay. And it never really stopped until about when I got into grad school in 2003. So that 2-year period from 03 to 05, where I was, hitting the books hard and studying. I wasn't working. She's my ex-wife now, but when we were engaged during that time, she was the breadwinner. So I'd have to kind of sometimes ask, "Hey, babe, can I pick this up off of eBay?" Yeah. But then after grad school and started my career and making good money, that's kind of when it skyrocketed even more. And that's when I actually got into the game used stuff, which is really taken off for me. So I kind of went in stages.
You kind of went in stages. What was it, or was there kind of a decision point along the way where you said, I don't just want to have a collection of Boggs stuff. I want to go after everything I can get my hands on. Was there something that kind of flipped that switch, where it's like, you know what I mean? Like it's taking it to a whole nother level?
Yeah, I don't know exactly when that happened, but there certainly was, and it was certainly early on when I started amassing, a pretty good, decent sized collection. And I had to have been in my teen years. There was a point in time where I thought to myself, man, I got this much stuff, but I know there's more stuff out there. I want to have the ultimate Boggs collection. I've got to be the biggest. I got to be or I want to be the biggest Boggs collector, around. And that was kind of like, yeah, it started off when I was in my teens, and that was my mindset, and I never stopped since then. And as far as I know, I have the largest weight box collection on the planet.
I think that's really interesting because, the fact that you kind of got your mind around that, or that became a goal for you while you were still in high school, before you had gone to college, before you had got a career and a good paying job, before it was even known whether that would even be a possibility, that was your focus. I've talked to other people where, it was later in life that they finally decided that they wanted to kind of relive their childhood and go and build this collection. But you've kind of had that goal ever since you were a teenager, which I think is really cool. At what point, give us a feel for when you first got started, like up through those high school years, what did that collection mainly consist of? You mentioned you were going after bog stuff, the stuff that you could find locally, the stuff that you could afford, but kind of how big was that collection kind of in its first phase?
Well, at the time, I thought it was huge, but looking back now, it really wasn't that big. It was mostly just cards. Um, and living here in Chicago, and we would get the Chicago Tribune and the Chicago Sun-Times newspapers every day. If there were ever a clip or a picture of him in the sports section of either of those magazines, which it did happen every once in a while when the Red Sox were in town, I'd clip those out. I was saving box scores for years, which unfortunately, sadly, I must have misplaced at some point, because I had hundreds of them. I mean, seasons of just clipped out, box scores of Red Sox games, and man, I would have loved to have made a display out of those, but that was basically all I could rely on at the time, being in Chicago. Now, if I was in Boston, I'd probably have all the stuff, but yeah. So it was mostly cards, and I had thousands of cards at the time, as going into my late teens, and thought that was huge. And the newspaper clippings, and I started a couple of Beckett magazines he was on the cover of. I was able to purchase those at the card store, so it was mostly magazines, cards, and newspaper clippings. The thought of actually owning even one piece of game used material was like was such a distant. I never thought I would ever get to that point where I'd actually own a piece of equipment that he actually wore. And so when that did happen, I was just ecstatic. But at the time in my teens, I never even thought that would have been a possibility for me.
Give us a feel for where that collection stands today. For those watching on video, you can see the background, and there's basically, in this basement, there's not an open spot that doesn't have some kind of Boggs memorabilia.
Maybe a little bit right here.
Yeah, maybe a little bit on the ceiling back over one of the shoulders. So if you're listening on the audio version, you'll have to go to YouTube, check out the video interview if you want to see some of this stuff. But give us a feel for, where does this collection stand today?
Well, logistically, it stands where I can't put anything more down here. I literally have no more space. Desirability, there's a lot of things out there I still want to get. So I'm satisfied with where I'm at, but there's always that wanting more. And I've always wanted I want a fielder's glove. I do have a glove that Wade used, but it was a practice glove, so it wasn't one that was used on field. That would be probably the top. That's the top of the list of items I would love to get. Definitely need a New York Yankees jersey, whether home or away, or would be nice to have both. And what else? At least those are the two that I can think of right now: the fielder's mitt and a Yankees jersey.
Do you have a count on how many items, like how many cards you have, how many memorabilia items you have? Is there any kind of count that you've got?
No, I'm just no. I'm a hoarder, as my wife loves to tell me. I'm not meticulous as far as in like knowing exactly how many items of each I have. I'm not that OCD, but I could give you some ballpark figures card wise. Yeah, I've got to be around 15,000. Now I know there's one collector, Jeremy, that I'm good friends with. He claims to have over 100,000 box cards. So that's amazing. But I've got about maybe 15,000 myself. But game used items, which is really what I've been focusing on the last 5 to 8 years or so. I've got let's see, I've got at least 4 game worn jerseys, 5 game worn jersey pants. I have 15 or 16 pairs of cleats. I got about 8 pair of batting gloves, and I got 13 game used bets. Oh, and then I got a game used hat from each team. And my favorite piece, or my 3 favorite pieces, because it's the one that most people just kind of just hang their head and have to shake, like, what, you dude, there's something wrong with you. I own a pair of shower shoes from each of the teams that he played for.
That is a new one. I don't know that I've ever heard of any collectors with worn shower shoes. So that is a unique item for sure.
I'm unique. Now, I do know of a guy who's an Oakland A's super collector who does have a Mark McGwire game worn jock strap. Now, I won't go that far, but I do know a guy. His name's Ed.
that would be something. Now, I believe I've seen some pictures, and I may know the answer to this, but you've had a chance to meet Wade Boggs before. You've had a chance to meet him. Is he aware of the extent of your collection and the extent of your fandom?
He is, yeah. So back in 2000, I started my Twitter account in 2012, and almost every day I posted something, item from my collection, and always tagged him in it. And it was about 2014, and I was working. I was working in emergency medicine at the time, and I remember I was on shift, back and forth seeing patients, and I had my phone in my back pocket, and I heard a chime go off, and I recognized it as a Twitter chime. I figured it was just somebody liking one of my tweets or something like that. So I ignored it. About maybe an hour or so later, I finally got a chance to sit down. I'm in the dictation room, and I'm charting away on a patient or some patient's charts, and I finally decided to pull my phone out of my pocket. I looked at it, and the only thing that was on the screen said, "Wade Boggs now follows you on Twitter." And I had to do like a triple take. I couldn't believe it. I was like, "What?" So I opened it up, went to the app, and sure enough, I went to his page, and it says right next to his name, "Follows you." And I was like, "Holy,"
Yeah.
So he's been aware of my stuff since at least 2014, and I've had numerous interactions with him on Twitter, and then I've met him in person at least probably close to a dozen times now. Including being invited to his home in Tampa when my family and I were on vacation last year, or this past year, in Florida. That was something else.
That is very cool. I was going to ask if he's ever been to the man cave there, but you getting a chance to hang out with him at his house is even better.
That was cool. Yes, yeah.
What was that experience like?
Man, I tell you, so it was a Wednesday. I can tell you that much, because it was the one day that the family and we weren't going to Walt Disney Park, and my wife wanted to do something with some of the friends that we went down with, and she gave me a pass, because I had reached out to Wade maybe 2 days prior and said, "Hey, I'm going to be down in the Tampa area. Where's a good place to eat when I'm in Tampa?" And he told me of a place, and then he said, "And then when you're done, swing up by my house. You can, come by, come over to my house. Here's my number. Give me a call." It was just like, whoa. So when I showed my wife that, she's like, "Yeah, go ahead, do your thing with your guy there." So yeah, I drove from Disney to Tampa, which was a little over an hour, and yeah, I went to his house. He met me outside. He was in the park. He was in his driveway holding his little Yorkie Terrier named Cinnamon. And I got out the car, and he's like, "Hey, Rich, welcome to Florida," And yeah, he walked me to his house. I met Debbie, who was there, and yeah, he took me right. So when you walk into his house, he's got this big open foyer antrum, what do you want to call it? Turn to the left, and then one down step, is his memorabilia room. And yeah, I walked in there, and I'd seen pictures of this room, but to actually be in it, it was surreal. So yeah, it was a great time. I spent maybe close to an hour there. He gave me a tour around his house. He showed me both of his game trophy rooms, where his hunt, all of his hunts and stuff like that. His collection, his game collection is unreal. 2 rooms. I'm talking about, he's got every species of animal. He had a stuffed alligator. He had an elephant head. He had all kind. It was so cool. And then his daughter Megan was there. So I got to meet her first, for a little bit. But yeah, I stayed for almost about an hour, and we just talked. It was awesome.
Yeah, very cool. That seems like that would be a pretty awesome experience.
It was really cool. It was one of those where I didn't want to. I mean, I wanted to ask questions and talk, but I also, didn't want to overstep my invitation. Like, I could have hung out there all day, all day with them. But just kind of
Well,
had to. I just like. I asked just a few questions. I let him kind of lead the conversation and lead me around the house. And yeah.
well,
So
hopefully that was a good experience for both of you, and maybe it will lead to an additional conversation at some point in the future. I know. I
I'm sure
think
it was
he
more. I'm sure it was more memorable for me.
I think he used to do some hunting in Central Illinois back, during the off season, during his playing days. I think he used to come here to Central Illinois to do some hunting. So,
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Yeah, I don't doubt
but you talked about your man cave being pretty full at this point, but
it.
it's a pretty outstanding man cave. I understand that it actually won Man Cave of the Year in 2020.
Correct. Yes, it did. The mancavesite.org website. Yeah. Mike Yost or Mike York is the I don't know, call him the curator of the website. But yeah, I submitted pictures of my man cave, and I got an email a few months later, going into December of 2019, and yeah, I said I was a finalist, and then I would know within about a week who the winner was, and yeah, a week later I got an email from him saying congratulations, we voted you out of like 9,000 entrants, uh, man cave of the year. So I was like, wow, that's awesome. I wasn't expecting to win, but because it was my first time submitting pictures to this contest, because he's been doing it since I think 2014 or something like that. So yeah, it was an honor. It was great. So then of course Wade knew about it because I obviously put it right on Twitter
Sure.
as soon as I got the plaque, and then he signed it for me last year when I saw him at the card show that was up at the Donald Stevenson Center. So yeah, he got a kick out of looking at it, and congratulated me on the award and then signed it for me.
That's fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Did any other kind of media outlets pick up on that? Did it give you a chance to build kind of your notoriety and your kind of internet fame?
Yeah, yeah, because I posted it on my Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and then yes, I know I got approached to do a few podcasts like this
Yep.
as a result of that award. No, I mean, no major outlets, but it gave me a good amount of exposure that I was happy with. So
Very cool. Does your collection go beyond Boggs, or as you focused in on Boggs and needed to clear space, did you kind of sell off some of the other pieces of your collection that you had as a kid or anything like that? Or
no, I mean, basically, Boggs has been my main focus, but I do collect Star Wars. I do have a pretty good, I would say it's probably would be considered a world-class vintage Star Wars collection that if you want, I could show you. I could pick up the iPad and show you I got a separate room for that. But yeah, it's that's my other passion is Star Wars.
that's very cool. Yeah, that's another interest of mine as well, is Star Wars collectibles, Star Wars cards, and
Yep.
there's some pretty good Star Wars podcasts and things like that are out there too that I enjoy hearing about, especially from a memorabilia and card perspective. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's cool. One other question that I had is, I know your Boggs collection goes beyond cards, right? Cards is a
Mm-hmm.
focus, but you go into the game worn memorabilia and those types of things too. I wanted to get your thoughts on this question because I think other super collectors have varying degrees of interest and have some pretty strong thoughts on it. When you think about your Boggs card collection, how do you think about how many cards continue to come out post playing days versus a collection that's focused on cards during the playing days? Like I said, people have so many different thoughts on if they like the fact that there's still a bunch of new stuff coming out, or if they preferred that they scaled it back since he's not playing anymore. I was just curious on what your thoughts are on playing days versus all of the cards released after playing days.
Well, I do know that it's at least 3 times the number of cards that have been made of Wade Boggs post retirement as opposed compared to when he did play. And I honestly don't have a problem with it. I love it because it gives me, because I always want to be collecting. So if they didn't have cards put out every year, I'd have nothing really to look forward to. So even though personally scaled back on trying to go after every single variation of new cards that are coming out, because it is insane. But I don't look on it negatively. I do enjoy it. I like it. I think it's awesome. And even though I may not have all the cards that came out of his in 2018, to this day I can still find those cards if I want to, and pick them up, and they make really nice additions to the collection. My only, I guess, one problem I do have though with when they do come out every year with so many different, parallels, short prints. What I'm noticing about Boggs, and I don't know if this is the same for other collectors like maybe Kent with Ricky Henderson. I get a little tired of seeing the same image of Wade, just on a different border or a different background. It's always like maybe 4 or 5 of the same picture all the time.
Yep.
I'm thinking to myself, he's got to have thousands of pictures out there, and they just seem to keep using the same handful of images and just pretty up the card around it. So I would like to see more of a variety of different pictures of them.
Yeah, I think that's a healthy perspective. I think the people that I've heard get the most frustrated are the card focused collectors who are completists and feel like their collection isn't complete unless they have almost every possible, card that they can get of their player or whatnot. And so, with your mindset of I want a robust collection, but I don't have to have every single card. I think that is what probably helps you keep that balance of still kind of enjoying some of those things. But I think you're also right. There's some laziness that we've seen in the recent years, especially for some of the retired legends, that the same few photos continue to get recycled from product to product.
Oh yeah. Do you know who Tanner Jones is? Have you heard of Tanner?
Yep.
Yeah, everybody knows Tanner. I did a podcast with him, and he had asked me a similar question as to, like, do I feel this need to have to get every single card of Wade Boggs? And at the time during when we spoke, I said, what, I'm to the point now with my collection that I no longer feel the pressure to have to get every single card, every single piece of every single card that he's on, because one, it's not attainable. It's just too much out there. And me personally, I'm not speaking for anybody else who's a super collector, but me personally, I am now to a level of notoriety, and the fact that I'm acquaintances with Wade. I feel like, and this is how I told Tanner, I said I think I've reached the zenith, the pinnacle of super collectordom, that I don't really necessarily feel any more pressure to have to like keep getting everything and showing it off. I'm like, I'm there. I'm already, Yep. So I don't feel the pressure any longer. It's kind of nice, So I like the group of people that I've met because of the collection and some of the accolades I've gotten, like the Man Cave of the Year awards. So it's a fun hobby. I enjoy doing it. Yes, it can be very very costly, as my wife loves to remind me all the time. She'll say, like, think of all the trips we could have gone on, or think of all the we could have had our colleges already paid off.
Yeah.
But I'm like, well, what's the fun in that? So.
Is there anything else that you want people to know about the collection, or that you think it's important that people understand about your journey in collecting Boggs?
Yeah. So not that I think Wade's going to watch this. He might. I don't know. But I am planning on shortly here, because I know he's coming for the National this year. And he has told other collectors who have gone to like shows where he's at, and they'll be like, hey, Boggs Tavern, Rich Day? He's like, yeah, I know Rich. He's like, you ever gonna get there? He's like, yeah, it's on my bucket list to get there. So I'm gonna hit him up pretty soon about really seriously putting together maybe a chance of him coming here.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll pay whatever. If he wants a limousine right here, I'll get a limo. Whatever. Yep. I'll get him here. I got to get him here. He's got to come. So. And if he does that, I'll retire. I'll retire.
Yep.
So that's my biggest thing right now.
That would be the full icing on the cake. That would be pretty awesome. Hey, if people want to check out the collection, if they want to follow along, if they want to see kind of the things that you share, on social media, where can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm basically on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So my Instagram is 1974 RMD. Twitter, I'm at Boggs328. And then on Facebook, my buddy John Reichert and I, we have a a page, Wade Boggs Super Collectors page, and him and I basically put our entire collection on that Facebook page. So if they want to go there, they can see pretty much every item I get. Because every time I get something new, I take a picture of it, put it on there. It's actually a way for me too, also to kind of inventory what I've got, because I do have this all insured, and so I know how much I've got invested in here. So yeah, those are the three sites that they can find me on social media.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you spending a few minutes today talking
Yeah.
about your collection, the pursuit of that collection, and the interactions you've had with Wade. I think that's awesome. I think people are really going to enjoy hearing it. So thanks again for your time today.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I appreciate you having me on.